Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Janardhan. Thank you.
Most welcome, Professor.
I hope you are able to see it on your screen. I think it's time for us to begin the class. So,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so once again, I welcome you all to our class on aspects of language and the relation to literature. So far, we have had 2 classes, and the third one we are starting right now. Now, I just want a small confirmation from your side if you are able to see the screen that I'm sharing with you.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Great. So I suppose my voice and audio is also video is also clear to you.
Yes, sir. It is clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Because I am testing a new system today, so I just wanted to confirm whether everything is fine.
Yes, sir.
And I humbly request at the very beginning of the lecture, all of you please keep your mics on mute. And whenever I ask a question, you please respond to it and then again mute yourself so that the communication is without any problem, without any technical issue. I hope you respect my request. Okay, so today we will be discussing 2 different concepts in our class. One is rhetoric, and the other one is speech act theory. Before we begin today's topic, I want a quick response from your side of what we discussed yesterday. It's a kind of recalling what we already discussed and understood in the last class.
Discourse and conversation.
Okay. Anything else?
We discussed about 5 performatives, sir.
Great. We discuss about 5 performances. Okay. And are you not missing the very basic concepts to this course that we discuss about language and literature? We discussed about what language is and what literature and how language and literature are related, and what is the speciality of this particular course, which is offered by Ambedkar University, right? It is a kind of a bridge between language and literature. We know that these two are different streams of knowledge which are taught as 2 different separate courses in most of the Indian universities. But in this particular university, we have a course which bridges the gap between language and literature, where we are trying to understand literature from a language point of view. So that is why we are looking at language from a scientific point of view, from the point of view of a language expert, and see how language plays a definitive role in production of the literature, and how it improves our understanding of the literature itself. Okay, this is what we started with in the last class. And after that, obviously we talked about discourse, and we talked about organization of discourse. We talked about different elements within discourse, like how a piece of writing, a text, right, could be considered a discourse, and in what circumstances it cannot be considered a discourse, right? and there was three rule test to ascertain whether any written or oral piece is a discourse or not, right? Can you recall those 3 points, rules? Yes,
Cohesion, coherence, and relevance.
very good, Jonathan, very good. So these were the 3 different rules which help us to test whether any written or oral text is or a chunk of speech is a discourse or not. Okay, and what cohesion is actually a structural links, right? And coherence is nothing but the clarity. When you write or put down your thoughts, or when you speak your thoughts, there should be a clarity in that. It should be organized in such a way that it gives a clear meaning without any ambiguity and all. And also the third root is about relevance, right? So, and we took up a lot of examples in the last class, so I don't want to go again into that. Just to refresh what we learned in the last class, I actually I'm discussing all these things. Apart from that, we also talked about one important concept, that language is not a mere means of communication. There are quite a few other things that we do using the language, including performing the acts, right? So language helps us perform a lot of acts, and those acts, which J.L. Austin called performative acts, have been classified into 5 different categories, right? Can anybody volunteer to respond to what those 5 performatives were?
Verdictives.
Very good.
Exercitives.
Exercitives, okay.
Commissives.
Very good.
Behavitives.
Okay.
Expositives.
Excellent. So, yeah, these were the 5 different performative acts which Austin talks about. And from examination point of view, if you have these basic concepts clear, you can attempt any questions related to these topics. And if you want me to tell what and how you should be writing in a question paper, when you're asked to write, that I will discuss maybe in the latter classes. Okay. Now, from that, those 3 or 4 different important concepts, I am moving to another new topics. One is rhetoric and other is speech act. I announced it yesterday itself. I hope you had the chance to look at those topics in your text. Is there anyone who got the chance to look at those topics, read it at least once?
No,
Yes, sir. Very confusing.
Okay, no issues. What matters is taking an initiative. Okay, whether you understand or doesn't understand is not really thing to worry about. Rather, your desire, your motivation to at least look at it, if not in detail, but at least a cursory look would help to move forward. Okay, and being a counselor, I'm with you to help you understand these concepts, which are I think for students of literature are slightly challenging. I wouldn't say it's very difficult, but it's challenging because we have ventured into an area where we are trying to understand language from a scientific point of view. Okay. So far, our understanding is a very a typical social understanding of the language. That we use language to communicate, to share emotions, and these that. All that understanding of yours and mine is based on our own social experience, our own experience of life. Okay, but now in this particular course, we are trying to look at language from a fresh perspective, from a perspective which has its root in science. Okay, looking at language from a scientific point of view. That is why, if not all, a few of the concepts would be challenging to understand in the first reading. So one such concept that we are going to take up is rhetoric. Now, before I go about what rhetoric is and how it came into being and what are its uses in our day-to-day life, I would like to know from you if you have heard about this term before.
In a statement, so they say it's a rhetorical question.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else in any of the newspaper or in any of the movie or any of the short stories that you have read earlier, or in any of the critical analysis of a poem, right? You might have somewhere must have came across this particular word. Perhaps you might not have tried to understand what exactly this rhetoric means, but you might have came across this word itself, right? And being a student of literature, it is possible. It's quite possible that at undergraduate level, this particular word might have been repeated by or used by some of your lecturers while teaching poetry, fiction, or theory and all. Can anybody volunteer what exactly rhetoric means?
A way of
Art.
speaking.
Way of speaking. Good.
Art of
Reminder
speaking or
language.
writing.
Yeah. Art.
Art.
Okay.
Art of speaking or writing.
Art of speaking and writing. Right. A way of speaking. Great. You are very interesting, students. I mean, you are able to make guesses, and that is a good sign that we are trying to, as a class, we are trying to learn something new. Anybody else would like to respond?
The art of convincing people. I'm sorry. The art of convincing people by just your words, your eloquence. The
Okay.
way you would go ahead and probably make a truth into a lie, or convince people into something that's fictional that could be possibly real. The art which was used by Greek revenue officers to convince people for land and everything, that this is my land or this is your land, whenever there was a conflict, later on went to become rhetoric.
Okay, great. So all of you have really gave relevant answer, right? As we discussed in the last conversation, that one of the maxim when it comes to conversation is also relevance, right? So I appreciate you all for giving relevant answers to the question that I posed. Now, yes, what all you have said is actually part of the meaning of what rhetoric is. But let us also look what exactly it means as per different dictionaries and as per different experts in the field. One of the first things that we have to understand is that rhetoric, as like many other words, has its origin in a Greek language and Greek culture. So this word came from Greece, and its literal meaning is rhetor, a person, a teacher, or a professional orator. Okay. So what exactly that a teacher does or that professional orator does? He tries to make a case or argue something, right, in favor of or against. Okay. The person who is expert in the use of language as an orator, what he usually does, he makes you believe in something. He motivates you to do something, or he actually dissuade you from doing something. So this particular rhetoric is basically an art of persuading people. And if you look at other shades of the meanings of rhetoric, it is basically an ancient discipline. It is a theory of and practice of eloquence, as somebody has already said, and it's a art of literary expression, right? An art of using language to persuade others. Now, when we go back into the Greek traditions, we knew that the dominant way of communication was oral communication. Written was almost if not non-existent, but it was not the fashion. Okay, the predominant use of language was in oral domain. Okay, so this particular art has developed as a discipline of oratory. Okay, it developed as the art of public speaking. And if you go and look into the origins of this particular concept, what we find is that in 5th century BC, in one of the cities in Greece called Syracuse, there were people who had to migrate from Syracuse to some other place, and the reason was there was a despotic ruler, right? A ruler which was like a tyrant. Okay, he did not treat the people with due respect, care, and other things. He was a harsh ruler, right? He was more punishing than loving, right? He was not a affectionate or compassionate king. So because of that reason, a lot of people have migrated from Syracuse to some other places. But over a period of time, as things have changed, including time, the ruler has also changed. So another set of people came into power, and those people were democratic in nature. They respected citizens, right? And they provided a lot of services and schemes to help their citizens. So as a result of that, those people who left earlier, they returned. They returned to Syracuse. Quick interruption. I request Janardhan to off annotations of all the participants. Go to annotations and off it for the participants so that they cannot scratch on the screen.
Got it.
Yeah. So when these people came back, okay, what they found is that there are others who are occupying their places. It happened in our country also. Okay, at the time of partition, many people have migrated from India to Pakistan, and some came from Pakistan to India. Now assume that no similar thing has happened in Syracuse, and after a period of time, maybe a decade or so, and other, when the people who were original, residents, they came back, they saw that their houses being occupied by some other people. Now there was a case, right? And there are multiple such cases where you have to argue that this particular house belongs to you. Nowadays it is easy for us because there is a registry, right? For every flat, for every plot, for every house, you register, and the records are kept, and at any point of time that record can be validated, verified. But that was not the case in 5th century BC in Syracuse. Now the only way to reclaim your own property, your own land, was to argue in front of audience who were also judges, right? If you were able to successfully defend your case, you would emerge victorious and your land would be given back to you. Now this required the art of public speaking, the art of persuading people to believe that this particular land belongs to you. In that particular circumstances, rhetoric came into prominence, and from that point of onwards, public speaking, right, speaking to convince others, was taught as a education, right? And as a result of that, today what we see is established a discipline of public speaking. Aware of this, that public speaking is taught. public speaking is taught in different places, different
Yes,
by,
so
by
it's
different
a discipline by
Yeah.
virtue of rhetoric and its importance towards the
Yes,
language.
yes. I remember a case after 2014 when Congress lost the power, and it was like a big setback for the Congress, and they had one particular face in the public, which is of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Now, the press was reporting that Mr. Gandhi has disappeared from the scene. Okay, and he was not available to the public for a month or more than that. And eventually, that Rahul Gandhi appears again in the public. And one of the first things that has happened after his reappearance was his speech in the parliament. And when he gave that speech, people were shocked. Is this the same Mr. Gandhi who used to give speeches in election campaigns? They were amazed because the Gandhi who spoke, who delivered public speeches before 2014 or at the 2014 elections is not the same Gandhi who is giving the speech in the parliament. There was a drastic change. And what I assume is that in that absence of more than a month, he might have been trained in public speaking. He might have been given certain tips and tricks in speaking. As a result of that, he gave an impressive speech, and he was able to what we say bring the government to the accountability, and that he could do because of his public speaking skills, which he mastered, which he improved when he disappeared from this scene. What I'm saying is public speaking, though it started in 5th century BC, it has over the years developed into a prominent discipline, where there are experts who teach you public speaking. And fortunately, one of my teacher now, who is my supervisor also in the Maulana Azad National Urdu University, he is an expert in public speaking. He not only gives terrific amazing public speeches, but he also trains. He is trained in that, and he trains also. So this has become a established discipline. Okay, and from language point of view, if you look at rhetoric, it is more like a discourse. Why discourse? Because as we tried to understood in our previous class that in a discourse there has to be a speaker, hearer or listener, and a message. So in case of rhetoric, you have a person who is standing up to speak and defend himself as a speaker, and there is an audience, right, who are his hearers or listeners, and he's making a case. Okay, that is his arguments. So from language point of view, if you look at rhetoric, rhetoric is part and parcel or well within the language. Okay, it is inherent to language. Now, using the language only, he is able to make his case. Understood? I hope you are following me. Am I connected to you? Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So your quick responses helps me move forward. Now, after understanding what rhetoric is and how it came to become an established discipline, now we'll also look at some of the what we say classical works which talks about rhetoric in detail, starting from none other than the famous Aristotle. His work Rhetoric is a book which talks about rhetoric as a discipline, as a what we say, as you have said, it's an art of public speaking or art of persuading people to believe in you. And we have Cicero's work, De Invention and quintillions, Instituto Oratoria, one work, and second work, De Optimo Genere Oratorum, and one more, De Orator. So these are three works of Quintilian, and he has written extensively in rhetoric, the area of the rhetoric. And in the Middle Ages, we talked about classical ages. In the Middle Ages, rhetoric was taught along with logic and grammar. Okay, grammar is purely related to language, and as we understood, rhetoric is also related to language only. But logic was taught separately, and logic is applicable in sciences as well as philosophy. Earlier, there were no fine distinction between what philosophy is, what science is, what social science is. But there was an umbrella called philosophy. That is why if you do a PhD in English or science or any other discipline for that matter, what you get a doctorate in philosophy. Okay, so philosophy was considered the highest of the knowledge. So logic was taught as part of the philosophy, and along with logic, grammar and rhetoric was also taught. So these three particular areas of knowledge are together called trivium. What is it called?
Repeat, sir.
Yeah, there are three different streams of knowledge. One is logic, the other is grammar, the one more is rhetoric. So these three together are called trivium. Okay, tri means three. So trivium is the term for these three streams of knowledges or areas of knowledge: logic, grammar, and rhetoric. You may be asked a one line what we say answer for what trivium is, or you may be given and fill in the blanks to supply the word. Okay,
so can you spell that Latin word, please?
T-R-I-V-I-U-M, trivium.
Thank you.
It's also visible on the screen if I'm to ascertain from
got
the
it.
whether yeah,
Got it. Got it. Got it.
Okay, now what we will do is after understanding which were the some important works when it comes to rhetoric as a discipline, especially with reference to classical age and middle age. Now we'll move to talk about what exactly Aristotle has to talk about rhetoric. What according to Aristotle is rhetoric, and what are its essential elements. Now we know that Aristotle is a Greek philosopher, right? He also talks about poetics. The people of literature must be aware of it. This is his notion of poetics. So he is the one who also gives what we say a definition of what rhetoric is, and he explained the concept of rhetoric. According to him, rhetoric is the ability in each particular case to see the available means of persuasion. Okay. Now, so far we understood that rhetoric is an art of persuasion, but there is a slightly changed definition what Aristotle gives. What he says, it is a means of persuasion. Right? What does it mean? Can you make a guess what exactly he means when he says means of persuasion?
A way, a method.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's an aid to persuade others, to make them see what and or like agree with them.
Now, I'll recall the definition that we try to understand about what language is, right? Language is a means of communication. That is what we try to take up as a working definition. What exactly that means is, in order to communicate, you need something, right? So here language is a means through which you communicate. In similar way, if you want to persuade somebody, right, you need a certain means to do that. And that means here is rhetoric. And how does rhetoric helps you in persuading people? rhetoric, what we say, it improves, it makes better your understanding of how to play with words, how to use words effectively in order to make somebody believe in you, in your case. Okay, and that is why it is a means. Okay, what kind of style is required in order to achieve that persuasion? If I take example of Mr. Narendra Modi, do you think that he is the what is a terrific speaker, public
Yes.
speaker? He is charismatic public speaker.
Yes.
He is, no doubt about it. He is. Why? Because keeping all his political statements aside, we as students of language and literature, we are not concerned about what kind of politics he deals with. What we are interested in is in a country of 130 billion, 130 crore people,
Hello.
he is able to persuade people,
Selected
and
same.
not one time but multiple times. You please mute yourself.
అంటే నా దగ్గర full
Yeah. So as a public speaker, as a person expert in public speaking, the one who mastered rhetoric, he is able to sway, right, move a majority of Indians. He is able to make you believe in whatever he wanted you to believe. May it be the case of 10 lakh rupees in our accounts, right? May or anything like that, like Akshedin, right? Demonetization, whatever. All these things are gigantic in nature. Right?
So sorry to interrupt you for a minute.
Yes.
Just everyone who has the video on, please switch off your videos, please.
Okay, thank you, Janardhan. So
No, sir, it's causing a bandwidth problem. We're not able to hear you. Srikanth, please switch off your video. Thank you, sir.
yeah, so
Please continue.
I think HOD of the English department also requested you in the last class that you please keep your video off so that audio would be clear. Okay. So anyway, you are able to look at the screen. So you need not open your own video, which would cause eventually the bandwidth problem. So yeah. So coming back to art of persuasion, and we were looking at the example of Mr. Narendra Modi. That he is, as a master of public speaking, as an expert in rhetoric, he is able to sway a majority of Indians, and he is able to make majority of Indians believe in whatever he is envisioning. May it be Atmanirbhar Bharat, may it be 10 lakh rupees in our bank accounts and all. So what exactly he was able to do is make us believe in that, and we believed him not once but twice, right? So I'm not going to talk about what kind of politics or what are the repercussions of that. As a student of rhetoric, we are trying to understand how he is able to do it and what exactly he did that which led us to believe in him. Now, if you analyze any of his speech, or for that matter, take example of Barack Obama, the last president of last president of United States of America. These people are charismatic public speakers. They were able to make you believe, like America, when he was campaigning for the presidential elections, he said that yes, we can. That was a small phrase, but that resulted into his electoral victory, right? He was able to connect with the people easily with that. And if you really want to know what we say, as students of literature, if you really want to know how a speech could be turned into what we say, a rhetorical piece, a piece full of what we say, beauties of rhetoric is to look at the speech of Julius Caesar in the play of Shakespeare, right? So if you look at that speech also, it will make you realize how a normal piece, written piece or oral piece, could be turned into a rhetorical piece, a piece which has the potential to persuade people. So similarly, Mr. Modi has also made us believe in things which we didn't know much about, or even if we knew, we actually followed what exactly he wanted us to follow. So that is because of art of public speaking, and that is because of the rhetoric. Now Aristotle talks about three different forms of rhetoric, right? What are those three forms? He talks about ethos, logos, and pathos. Okay, so these are the three different forms of rhetoric which Greek or Aristotle talks about. Now, what ethos is basically, ethos is an appeal based on the character of the speaker, right? When you as a speaker goes on the platform, if your personality itself is questionable, if your personality itself is not charismatic, you will not have the effect that you intend on the audience, right? So first thing out of these three is ethos, that is your character, your personality should be charismatic. Understood? A speech of Obama could do wonders only when there is Obama to deliver that speech. I hope you are following my point. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if the speaker is charismatic enough, right? So that is one form of it. Now, if the speaker is charismatic, if his personality is worth inspiring, so what happens is whatever he says becomes the rule. Whatever he says would be followed by the people. Take example of recent example of Elon Musk, right? Musk is one of the personalities known globally, and his charisma is so powerful that his one tweet could bring the value of any company on the stock exchange, or can shoot up the value of a company on the stock exchange. It happened. He tweeted something about some company, and things have changed on the stock exchange. Take example of Cristiano Ronaldo, right? The football player. He just simply dragged Coca-Cola aside and brought a water, and he said, "Drink water." It was just a small phrase, "Drink water," and that resulted into 4 billion losses to Coca-Cola, the company. So what happens is, one way of rhetoric, or one particular form of rhetoric, is through your character. The more powerful your character is, your personality is, the better you can persuade people. Now coming to second one. Second form of rhetoric, according to Aristotle, is logos. What logos is? Logos is an appeal based on logical reason. Now, no matter whether you know who Fasiullah is, what qualification he has, right? No matter whether he looks handsome or not, if he talks something sensible, if he writes something argumentative, if he makes his case through reason, through logic, in a proper way, don't you think that you would be convinced of what he is trying to say? Would you be convinced? I'm seeking your response.
We are Indians, not Greeks. It's difficult to convince us.
Yeah. Keeping that fact aside, at times I'll tell you why we get convinced. And at times children come when we are in a serious situation, and suddenly as a what we say stress buster, right? Or as a comic relief, they suddenly appear into the scene, into the situation, and they say something without much seriousness, and that particular statement makes a lot more sense to us, and we all get relieved. Does this happen in your case also?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it happens. Now, what exactly that child has done? He just persuaded us or made us believe in his statement, which was logical, which was rational, reasonable, right? So, no matter whether you have a charismatic personality or not, if your logic is sound, if your reason is sound, you can still persuade people with your logic and sound. And that is why we as students of literature have got inspiration, have changed ourselves in many number of ways just by reading the text in the form of novels, poetry, and short stories without knowing or without seeing that charismatic writer. Isn't it? Right?
Yeah, true, very true.
Yeah. So now this is what Aristotle says. This is the second form of rhetoric, where you need not have to appear before your audience. You are just words, you are discourse, which is logical, which is argumentative, could bring people into your camp, could persuade people to believe in you, in your idea. Okay? The other day I was watching one lecture of Shah Rukh Khan on humanity. He was called to TEDx, right? And he was asked to deliver a lecture on humanity. Forget about who Shah Rukh Khan is for a moment. But the kind of appeal he made through his lecture on humanity, I'm sure if you also watch on YouTube, it's available on YouTube and TEDx, TED.com, you would be completely swayed. You will be completely persuaded by his logic and argument. And that is the power of logic. You need not have to be a charismatic leader to persuade people. If you are charismatic, your charisma can influence for sure. But even if you are not charismatic, you can still persuade people through your logic and reason. And these were two forms of rhetoric, which Aristotle talks about. The third form of rhetoric, which Aristotle talks about, is pathos. That is emotions. Now, can you give, as a student of literature, an example of pathos to me, which you might have read somewhere, which you might have seen somewhere?
So please repeat your question. Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the third form of rhetoric is pathos, according to Aristotle. The pathos is about appeal based on emotions. Now, can you think of, as a student of literature, an example which you might have come across in your reading of literature, or in your watching of movies or serials, where people are convinced or made to believe in something, made to accept something using emotions?
Dan Brown, sir, Digital Fortress, the way he describes things in his novel actually makes you believe that that fictitious world which he's describing actually exists and you exist in it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can we say, sir, Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan, on partition, on the base of the partition, he wrote that novel. So the trauma, the severe conditions of the people, that was focused.
Okay, you are close. You are close to it. Let me give two concrete examples so that our point would be much clearer. One is, if you have watched any serial, right? Any Indian serial, those serials are loaded with emotions, right? Because they are loaded with emotions, you, as somebody who's watching that serial, you start taking sides of X character or Y character in A situation or B situation. We do this, don't we?
Sir, in fact, any advertisement also would be based on emotion. That is how they make us buy or make us make a choice.
No, why I'm giving example specifically of what we say serials is because it is easier to understand. No work is written without emotions, that is for sure, except some serious kind of legal or other things. But especially in literature, everything has a central emotion attached to it, right? In case of serial, there is a story, there are dialogues, there are characters. Yet we start taking side of A character or B character in A X situation or a Y situation because of the emotions that are being displayed by the character. So we start sympathizing with some character. We start hating some character. We start wanting to take revenge of certain character. On what basis you are doing it? Is it based on the charisma of the character or the arguments of the character, or mere just emotions of the character attached with the character or displayed by that character? So in case of serials, what we call here in India, we do based on emotion. It means the character was successfully able to persuade the viewers to follow him, to believe in him, to believe his case to be the true one, to sympathize with it, or to hate. So this is happening because of emotions. So this is the third term or the form of rhetoric which Aristotle talks about. I hope it is now clear to you. Are you with me, or have I lost the connection?
We are with you, sir.
Okay. Now, after discussing rhetoric in detail, I think to a satisfactory level. Now I think we'll move on to next topic. No, sorry, there are a few things that need to be discussed. Okay, so in case of what we say discourse, we learned about a 3-rule test to ascertain whether any written text or a chunk of the speech is a discourse or not. And we also talked about organization of the discourse. In a similar way, rhetoric can also be organized and needs to be organized. And regarding that, there is a particular logical order that was followed in Middle Ages, and to this day also it is being followed. Okay. Now, what the expert says that any speech that you want to give, any piece that you want to write, you do that on a particular topic, right? Any essay that you write or any speech that you want to write to be delivered, it would be on a topic or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what you do as a first thing, you start gathering material, information about or arguments about that particular topic, right?
Yes, sir.
Then what you do, you organize that information, that arguments in a logical order. Let's this be at the beginning, this be at the middle, and this should be ending. Right? This is how I will be starting. These are the few more things that I will be talking in the middle, and this is the statement, or these are the facts with which I will be ending the write-up or a speech. So this is called second thing. First thing, the gathering of information, relevant material to the topic on which you want to persuade people is called invention. And arrangement of those things is called arrangement or disposition. And then you do everything in a particular style, right? And each individual has a unique style. So you do that in a particular style. That is what the style is. That is the third thing. And fourth thing is that whatever you have prepared, right? In whatever order you have arranged the things, what you do, you memorize it. Rhetoric is purely related to it is relevant morely to the oral communication, but its users are also there in the written. So in this case, you memorize those points. What exactly you want to argue with people. So the third one, the fourth one is memory, and the fifth one is delivery. The very act of the last thing, that is, you go and you start, take a mic and you start. So that is what delivery is. So in rhetoric, you have to organize, and that you do by in an order, that is invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. Renuka, I ask you to, I request you to please mute your mic. Okay. So after that, there are a couple of terms that may be confusing to you that are given in the text, and you to know is that rhetoric is an art of persuasion, whereas dialectic is another term that is used in the unit is dialectic, and it means an ancient way of arriving at the nature of the truth. Okay, and the third term is poetics, and we all know that poetic is an art of imitation, on which Aristotle has written a lot about. Now, the last important term in this particular topic is stylistics. Stylistic, according to some authors, some scholars, is that it is a purely literary rhetoric. Okay? It is like one of the field within style, rhetoric. Okay? The stylistic is one of the field within rhetoric. And don't jump to the conclusion about stylistics what modern linguists talk about. They describe stylistics in a different way, but people who are expert in rhetoric says that stylistics is one of the specialized area within rhetoric, and that specialized area is related to literature. Okay. So with this, we'll wind up the concept of rhetoric, and I think we have had enough discussion on all those things. The last thing that I will be talking today, the last topic that I'll be discussing with you today is speech act theory. A few things that we already discussed about J.L. Austin and his performative acts. Right? We also recalled in the very beginning of this lecture that there are 5 performative acts which Austin talks about. Now, Austin is basically a British philosopher, and he took inspiration from Malinowski's notion of context of situation. And what context of situation is, you can go and check your text to understand more about it. Time doesn't permit me to go into that area. So as an additional thing, I'll leave it to you to refer it. It is provided in your text also. Now, Austin propounded the theory in his work.
Sir, can you tell us the page number, sir?
1 second. It's on page number 20, and it is unit number 3.3. Okay. So this concept of speech act theory is discussed in Austin's book, How to Do Things with Words, and it was published posthumously, which is after his death. And he said language is a mode of action, and it is used to do things and perform actions. Earlier, we started with a working definition that language is a means of communication, but it is Austin and people like him who are expert in the areas of language. They say that language is not mere a means of communication. In fact, it's a mode of action. It's a mode of action, which means we use language to perform different acts, okay, and to do things.
Sir, sorry to disturb you, sir.
Yes.
In the textbook, as we have discussed dialect and rhetoric, it's given some side headings of function of rhetoric and all, and Christian era, what it means, sir, what exactly we need to write about if they ask the question.
One thing I want to make it very clear in this lecture, so that you remember it, is that ours is not a conventional class, and due to time constraints, I cannot talk about each and every single subheading given in your text. What I would be doing and what I am doing is take you through major concepts, so that if you understand that, and after understanding that, if you read your text, it will be easier for you to make a comprehension out of whatever you read. So a few things which are additional in nature or supplementary in nature, it is you who have to refer it. Only major concepts I can cover in these 15 classes or so. Out of that, 3 is over by now. So if we get time at the end of our towards the end of our classes, in last few classes I may take up some additional things also, but to go through each and every subtopics even in your text is not possible in a constant class. So now we'll move to what exactly he talks about.
If possible, after the topic, you can give the questions, sir.
Questions of what about the topics?
Yes, sir.
That we will discuss as some of the important what you say questions and things we'll discuss in the last classes. I will also talk about question paper pattern.
As the other professors, after the topic, they are giving the questions. So we are noting down the questions. So that's the reason I asked you, sir. Okay,
no issues. I'll tell you one thing. Though some important questions, some questions are given to you towards the end of each unit in your text itself. I need not have to repeat that. Yet, what I find are important questions, I will discuss that. Not only just give the question, but also talk in brief about what that question means and how you can attempt that as an answer in your examination. That I will do in the last 1 or 2 classes. Okay, so please have some patience for that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we are talking about the speech act theory, and in that theory, Austin talks about 3 different kinds of acts or types of acts, which he called locationary, allocationary, and perlocationary. Now, to put it very simple, we know that when we utter something, right? So there is a person who is uttering it, and whatever he is uttering is the message, right? And as a result of uttering that message, some action happens, or some not action, some response comes, or as a reaction it comes, right? So there is a message, there is a speaker, and as a result of that message being passed from the speaker, or acted from the speaker, there is a reaction to it. So these are the 3 different things that are happening. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these 3 things, if you understand, these are technically put as locationary, allocationary, and perlocationary by J.L. Austin. It is as simple as that. The message that you are uttering is location or locationary act. The act of uttering it, the message is locationary act. The act that you are performing to utter that is a locutionary act. And as a result of your action, some person is reacting. Your audience or your listener or your hearer is acting or responding, and that is what he called perlocutionary act. So there are three kinds of act in the speech act theory, which J.L. Austin talks about: locutionary, allocutionary, and perlocutionary. Locutionary is the very statement that you are making. If I am saying that you are out is a statement. If I am, that statement is called locutionary act. If I, as a person, as a speaker, using or uttering that in a particular context, say in a cricket field, if I, as a speaker, utter that, as an umpire, utter that, what happens? The act of uttering is what he calls allocutionary. You are out is a statement spoken by S.M. Fasiullah as an umpire in a particular context, that is in the cricket field. That is what allocutionary act. And as a result of me uttering that statement, you are out, one person is leaving the field, and that is what he called perlocutionary act. So these are the three different acts which J.L. Austin talks about in the speech acts theory. It is very simple, and I tried to put it in that simple fashion only. I hope you understood it. Have you understood, or do I need to clarify it further?
It's very clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Now,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah.
Perlocutionary, can you please say once again?
There is a statement, you are out. Okay? One statement, oral or written. Okay. In this case, we assume it to be an oral statement. You are out. That words, that speech, is called locutionary act. I hope it's clear. Now, that words, a group of words, that statement has to be made by somebody, right? In this case, me as an umpire in the cricket field is making that statement. So that is called, what is that called? Allocutionary act.
Allocutionary.
Okay. Now, since I made that statement in the cricket field, and as a result of that, as a reaction to that, one particular person in the field is leaving the field, is going out of the cricket field. So that is what Austin says, perlocutionary act. The result or the effect of allocutionary act is the perlocutionary act. Okay.
Once we have that, we can performing on that locutionary act.
I hope it's clear now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, very clear.
Now, there is one more person called John Searle. He is a British, philosopher. He took up the concept of, this speech act theory from J.L. Austin, and he worked on that, obviously to improve upon that. So he talks about, 5 speech acts, and those 5 speech acts, according to Johnson, don't get confused between the performative acts of, J.L. Austin and speech acts of Johnson. Don't get confused. There are few terms that are similar in both, because John Searle took the concept from J.L. Austin. So there are, like, combatives are repeating here, expressives kind of repeating here, right? So John Searle classified all kind of performative acts into 5 speech acts.
Excuse me, sir, I have one doubt. Actually, performative, constructive also including in locutionary or this one? Performative and other one.
I didn't get your question because of disturbance.
So, sir, that one is constructive and performative also including in this locutionary arts. You explained 5 minutes back.
Okay. According to J.L. Austin, okay, there are 3 types of acts, which is a kind of basic model. And when we are performing any kind of allocationary act, in that allocationary act, we are actually performing something. So there are 5 different performatives as per J.L. Austin that we discussed in the previous class. Now, when it comes to performatives, John Searle says that there are 5 different, and to which he called speech acts. So which we are discussing right now. Representatives is one speech act, directives is another speech act, commissives, expressives, and declaratives are other speech acts. Now, what does he mean by representative speech act? It is an statement which defines something, which asserts something. Okay. So all kind of definitions fall under representative act. Okay. And all kind of questioning, request, and that kind of statement fall under directive speech act. All kind of promising, offering, warning kind of statements fall under commissive speech act. Whereas thanking, congratulating, welcoming kind of statements fall under expressives. And kind of declaration, conferring, and things like that fall under declarations. Now, as per these 5, speech acts which are given by John Searle. Now, I gave you an example of you are out, right? Now, what kind of act is this? Is it a representative act, directive act, commissive acts, or declarative?
Directing.
No, you are out is a declaration.
It's a declaration. Very good. It's a declaration. Now, if you want to understand it to know better, right, you go for types of sentences. In English, in grammar, you might have been taught about types of sentences. If you go and relook at those concepts, it will be easier here also. Okay. So I think we have had enough discussion today about these 2 different concepts. Now we have almost 9 minutes left. So before I close the class, I would like to know if you have any questions or any doubts that you want me to clear.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Please say your name also before you ask the question.
I'm Rakhi.
Okay, Rakhi.
I have a doubt on discourse and grammar. In discourse and grammar, there something which includes in both. It is dexis, definiteness, and ellipsis. Can you please explain this? What is dexis and ellipsis?
Can you tell me the page number?
Page number 7, sir.
1 second. 7. Yes. Okay.
Discourse and grammar in 5th line.
Okay. I'm just checking. Give me a second. Okay, this what do we say? While grammar will description not definiteness, ellipsis, etc., which are common to both the fields. Okay, now here all these 3 terms are technical terms related to linguistics. Okay. Now, for example, dexis is the use of general words and phrases to refer to a specific time, place, or person in context. Example, the words tomorrow, there, and they are related to dexis. Okay. Now, what here the writer is trying to say is that this particular referring of time or place in language is common both in grammar as well as in discourse. Okay. As I told you in the very beginning that in this particular course we are looking at language from a fresh perspective, a new perspective, that is language in use rather than the knowledge of language. Right? I hope you remember that.
Yes.
So when we talk about knowledge of language, it is nothing but rules of the language. Right? Whereas use of language is related to pragmatics, or it is related to discourse and all. So what this author here is trying to say in your book is that this concept of deity, right, wherein we are referring to a place or a person, right? This is something that we study in grammar as part of the grammar, but this same thing is also studied in discourse. That's what the author is trying to say. I hope I'm clear.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It was Rocky, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky, for this question. Next.
And what is ellipsis?
I think the actual point that Arthur was trying to make is clear to you. There are some other technical terms also you can look for yourself.
Okay, sir.
Next. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question or seek a clarification? We have 3-4 more minutes left to close the class. And if you don't have any questions, I have one question for you. Now, do you think there is a difference between the way I am teaching you today and the way I taught you today?
Sir, please repeat that.
Do you think there is a difference between the way I taught you today and the way I taught you yesterday?
Today and yesterday, no difference, sir. But regards to Zoom class and a lecture, this is much more convenient. I see you at much comfort, most of us at ease. There is a huge amount of difference with that, especially on the aspects of delivery of the lecture and our receptiveness and recollection. But yesterday and today, the only predominant difference is you had a slide to aid you today. Yesterday, it was mostly you talking. I would like to outline those for the betterment of the lecture.
So it's making a huge difference, right?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No,
Is there anybody who pointed out or noticed something much more than these two things? Yes, Raki, you were saying something.
Yeah, yesterday's topics we got different examples. Though it is based on the different topic, this is based on the theory and whatever the linguists they said, their statements.
Yes, as I told you, we ventured into an area which is, if not fully scientific, partially scientific in nature. So there will be some theoretical concept, and we'll try to look up for some easy examples. I'm trying to give live examples so that it makes sense to you and you understand it in an easier way.
Yes, sir, it's very good. It's sensible for us.
So do you want me to continue with the presentation as well in the next classes?
Yes, the presentation would be helpful.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, thank you. And if you would like to have this presentation from examination point of view, I'm okay to share it with you. If you are in Ireland, share with perhaps the Janardhan, so he could circulate.
Certainly, sir.
Okay. So thank you so much for being with me for 1.5 long hours and making this class interactive as well as interesting. I request you to show this kind of eagerness for next classes also. I'm looking forward to meet you tomorrow sharp at 12 for the next class. And I think to know in next class we'll get up.
What will be the topic tomorrow?
Yeah, so in the next class we'll be discussing speech functions. Okay. And if possible, language as a social phenomenon. Okay. So we'll try to cover at least 2 units in a class, because there are as many as 22 units if I recollect it correctly. So we have to finish all those in 15 classes. So I want to spare at least last 2 classes for.
We are enjoying today's class, sir, because you briefly explained yesterday very well, but orally today with presentation is very comfortable to understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I was saying is, we'll try to cover as many topics as possible in 13 or 14 classes, and I'm planning to dedicate last 2 classes to talk about important questions and to give some strategies to write better in the examination, and also discuss your question paper model. So with this,
tomorrow we'll have class, sir. Sunday.
No. Thank you for reminding me that.
That's what.
Thank you so much. I missed that. Tomorrow is Sunday, so we'll not have any class on Sunday, but on Monday we'll meet and we'll discuss these 2 topics.
These recordings of this class will remain, sir, always, or is it for a short time?
It is available on YouTube, and I'm sure it will be there as long as YouTube exists.
Okay, thank you.
There is no plan from the university side to remove those. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Actually, where we are getting the YouTube link, there on date is coming, and we are getting the link. So, is it available only the dates YouTube, or the previous days also we can see? Because first day I missed.
No, you can do one thing. On YouTube, if you type browse live, and after that there are multiple numbering in the channels. I'll just tell you what is the channel on which you will get it. 1 second.
Better daily we can copy the links and keep it with us, sir. Like anytime,
if you know the channel address, you can watch it anytime. What was that? I shared it yesterday. I also shared it in English group. I'll let you know that.
You can share it in the chat, sir.
Okay, I'll share it with Janardhan, and he'll let you know. Okay. So
Okay,
thank you
sir.
so much for being lovely, participants, lovely students who interacted with me and made this class interesting for everybody else. I expect this kind of enthusiasm from you in next classes also, to make overall teaching learning experience a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Happy weekend,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.